All right. And then do you want to just hit admit all? I just did that anyway. Yeah. Awesome. Hello, gorgeous people. Hello, hello. It's Denise and Mark here and the amazing Jeff Walker. And we are here to answer all of your launch questions. So we'll get started in about a minute. We want to make sure that we make the most of your time, Jeff. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, it's just awesome. And like, I can't wait to talk about even some of the stuff we're talking about before we hit enter. But guys, there's still time. Get a pen and paper. Camera is optional, but it is always fun to see your beautiful faces because we are a smaller group and I love seeing reactions. And, you can always just go like this or whatever, but it's totally optional and it's always amazing to see. I mean, oh, Zoe. Hello, Zoe. Beautiful Zoe that I've known since university days. And hey, Katie, so many beautiful people on this call. Chat away in the chat, like ask your questions there. You can come on camera and ask questions, comment as you go as well. This is your time to really make sure that you get all of your questions answered. But also, we are here to help you see the possibilities for yourself and see that you can literally just say, why not me? And just make it happen for yourself. Like, myself, Jeff, Mark, yes, we're smart people, but we're not that smart. We're just normal people and we've just figured it out and decided to do it. So, Jeff, why don't we just kick off? I would love you to even just do your normal intro that you do to introduce yourself to, because I know people have probably seen your videos by now, but the real man behind the videos.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
business.
yeah, absolutely. So first of all, thanks for having me. This is so fun. I love your community. We've known each other for so many years now. It's crazy. So my name's Jeff Walker. I've started an online business in 1996. I was a stay-at-home dad at that time. I had two young preschool children. The reason I was a stay-at-home dad was because I was a corporate failure. I tried to do the corporate thing and couldn't figure it out. I was a square peg in a round hole type of thing. So I left probably a week before they would have fired me. My wife was out, had a job, a good job supporting a family, but it's still a one income family. And we were just having a hard time making ends meet. And Denise, this is something I've been thinking about a lot last few days. When I started that business, because right now we're in this launch masterclass, and I'll talk about that in just a sec. But so many people, I see them hesitating. They're like, will this work for me? I want to know what's the 10th step or the 100th step or the 1000th step. And for me, I didn't have those thoughts going on for me because I was desperate. We were just really desperate for a change in our family. So I didn't have the luxury of all those doubts. And in some ways that, I feel grateful for that desperation spurred me to action. In any case, I started publishing a newsletter about the stock market. I got first email, I had 19 people on the distribution list. It gradually grew over time. And then eventually I decided, well, maybe I can sell something to these people. Only problem is I had no marketing or sales background. I'd never started a business. I had no one I knew had started a business. I literally did not know a single person in my entire life that had started a business. And I was uncomfortable with sales. I was uncomfortable with marketing. But what I did was I romanced people. I already had a free newsletter. And I said, my thinking was, if I keep on giving them more and more and more, and have that lead into me asking them to upgrade to a paid version, then they might still love me and maybe they'll buy from me. And, in 1996, there was no one teaching online marketing. And so I sort of invented this process, and it turned out it worked. That first launch did $1,650. And Denise, I know you had this. I know you had this because that was mind bending to me. For some people for some people that might not sound like a lot of money. It was mind bending for me because I up to that point in my life, I just made money through paychecks. That's the only way I ever got. People gave me money in paychecks if I showed up at a job. And the idea that I could create value and someone would pay me for that value was a theory until that first order came in. And when that first order came in, like if I could have done a backflip, I would have. because
Mm,
it proved to me that I could create value in the world and get paid for that value. And
yeah.
that first sale, I know, Denise, you went through, your first offer, you didn't have unbelievable,
No, I had one person, but I felt the same way. And that's why I see when people say, but I'm afraid of only getting one person or even getting no people. And honestly, the adrenaline rush of someone paying you to do something that feels really good is like, I've got chills even thinking about it. And you can't then think about like, well, what was the cost per hour? Because your first launch, like obviously the moving pieces are ridiculous. It's cents, it's pennies, but it's like planting a seed, and like that money, it feels so significant. It feels more than what it is, because it is, as Leanne said, that proof of concept. I just want to ask everyone too, if you haven't already, if you can type in just where you're listening from, because I know we've got people all around, and even what your business is like, or if you're even just starting out, because it's really good to know where people are at, because we love people at all levels. I know you feel this way too, Jeff, that like we love the beginners because we know how hard it is to overcome those fears, but we love people at every level because there's still imposter syndrome at every level, right? I know I have it. I don't know if you still have it, Jeff.
Mhm. I do not have it with marketing. Because that first business, I did that for 8 years and figured out this process before I ever started teaching marketing. So I didn't have it with marketing, but where I had it is more, the reality is once you teach, this is for anyone, once you start teaching anything to anyone, there has to be some element of growth or personal development that you're teaching. Because if you want to affect change, it's not just you're teaching people some, a golf swing or a meditation practice or how to quit smoking. There's also, you have to bring them along in their beliefs. And
Yeah.
so I had imposter syndrome about that running through me. It was like, the voice, we got those two voices on each shoulder, and one, which one are you going to feed? But I had the one that said, who the hell are you to tell
Yeah.
people how to live?
Who's got that one? Put your, like, if you're on camera, put your hand up if you've got that one. Who am I to tell people or teach people? Or you can type it in the comments. I think that's a really common one too, because we feel like we have to be perfect. And I feel like that's bigger for women sometimes. We feel like we have to have, 99% of the criteria before we do something, or someone's going to call us out. And I mean, I can be really honest. I still have that of like, what have I got to teach people? Or, who am I to do this? And that's not the excuse. Like sometimes I feel like we're waiting for that to go away before we go, oh, I do have something to teach people or to help people with. And I find recently, because I still have it, but I was like, but I just genuinely want to help people. I just genuinely want to help people. And I feel like when you know that you're pure of heart in that way, it's like, well, that's okay then. It's not going to be perfect, but I know that I have a pure heart. And honestly, Jeff, that's why we've worked with you for so long, because you do have that pure heart. Like you really do care about people. And I'll be honest, the only reason I bought your course at first is because Mark was driving me crazy. He's like, oh, how do I do this? And what's this thing? And I'm like, because it was all in my head. And I'm sure everyone listening has done lots of different marketing courses and lots of different launching courses. And you've got all these little bits. And I was just like, dude, just follow a system. But I didn't have the energy to like write down a system for him. So I was like looking for a mentor that he could learn from, who wasn't a bro marketing, sleazy kind of guy, but would have a process that he could just follow and stop asking me questions. But then I did PLF too. And I have to admit, I don't always watch the videos. I like reading. I like reading the transcripts and then and the worksheets. And then I can go, okay, boom, boom, boom. And that's really, really, really helped me. So that obviously that's come from you, a process of like trial and error, working with lots of different businesses. How has PLF evolved over the years? What's changed and what's the same in launching?
So I started developing this. The first launch was early 97. I started teaching it in 2005. So a lot has changed. I think for instance, there was not even a picture of me online until 2005. Like literally there were sharing a picture, sharing a video it just really wasn't happening. So those early launches, there was no social media because it
Yeah.
it just didn't exist. That's why there was no photos of me, because there was no, sharing of photos, because there's no social. The early launches were done almost completely via email. When video came, and so then you had to be a great writer. You had to be a great
Yeah.
writer, all email, and you had to be able to write these great sales letters. And that was a big stumbling block for people. And then first there was actually a moment in time where audio was a thing. Like people would put up these audio postcards, they called it. And that was a thing for about a year, maybe. And then video became a thing, and then social became a thing. And then the live streams became a thing. And it became so much easier because it's for almost everyone. I mean, there's some gifted writers out there, and I'm a writer. I mean, that's really what I do, is I write. But for most of it, it's so much easier to speak our message, whether it's on live or whether it's on video. And I know a lot of people worry about being on camera and that, but you know what? No one is a natural at that. You just start off, and you usually start off with a very small audience, and you just get used to talking that little green dot.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just it. Then, I mean, Denise, I'm sure you can remember the first time you did video, and felt awkward. I used to
Oh, yeah.
every sentence. I would take 10 or 12 takes per sentence, and it's like, did I say is the right way there? Like, you're just so hypercritical, but then you just get over it.
Yeah.
And live is actually better because you can stumble and people expect you to stumble.
Well, people
And
probably like that better now. Like it's almost gone too far into perfection. Then people want to take it back to real and raw. And I think that's always going to be the same in launches. I think the things that have changed, you mentioned, oh, I can hear someone is unmuted. The things that will change are the technology. Whereas the storytelling is always going to be the same.
yeah,
That's the thing that will never, ever, ever change, depending on, we'll be hologramming into people's lounge rooms within a couple of years. I know this, right? But it's the storytelling stuff that I think that you teach in PLF that's been the most helpful for me.
yeah, the stories and it's the strategy has endured. That's when I look, since 2005, I've remade the course and remade the course and remade the course. And now, at around 2010, it shifted from being a course to being a coaching program where we now give a full year of coaching. And now it's a software program too. And so it's evolved, but the strategy stays the same. And the strategy is this idea of, like you said, the stories and creating a sequence, because it's a noisy environment out there. So to count on one marketing message to move people is not going to happen. So you create a sequence, and that sequence is what we call the pre-launch. And then another sequence is called the open cart. And those sequences are all about delivering value before you ever ask for the sale. So people are anticipating, they're looking forward to you actually giving them an opportunity to buy from you. And you do that through stories, through sequences, and then hitting these things we call the mental triggers, which is just they're factors we all have in our brains that impact the way we make decisions. And the whole launch process gives you the luxury of having the time to use the stories, the sequences, and the triggers.
You know what? I think sometimes people resist those things. So one in my community, sometimes I see people, who's a maverick here, by the way, who like hates following rules. You're a bit of a rebel. Who are my mavericks? Because the thing that I hear from mavericks is, I don't want to follow a cookie cutter thing, right? And what I always say to people is, when I went to Barcelona last year and I see all of the Gaudi buildings, right? He has broken every rule of architecture, but he still has to have a foundation, walls, engineering, right? That's just a law of building. But you can put anything you want on top of that. And so that's why I try and say to the mavericks is that you have to have the creativity, but like there is just some basic laws of marketing and sales, right? That if you just accept those like gravity, then you can literally create whatever you want on top of it. So what else would you say to people who like really, really struggle with this idea of, I don't want my launch to be like everyone else's. I don't want this cookie cutter thing.
I would just say don't have it be. Because I think constraints lead to creativity. And if the constraint is I am going to deliver real value ahead of the launch in such a way that it shows people what the opportunity is for them to change their life. And then it gets them to understand how their life will transform. And then gets them to take on not just this intellectual, yes, this could work, but actually start to take on ownership of who they're going to become. Whether it's they're quitting smoking or have a meditation practice or learn a second or third language. If you say, these are the constraints, because until I get people to see that opportunity and understand how it can change their life and start to take that ownership of who they're going to become, then you will not be able to effectively make a sale.
Yeah. You won't be able to help them.
No. Yeah. It's just, you're not going to help them.
Okay. But what about the people who are the like alchemist connectors here, have a million ideas? Okay. Because this is what I see a lot in my community too. They go, I don't know where to start. I could do this course or this course or this course, and I don't know which one should be my first one. So they get really stuck in analysis paralysis. What would you say to those people?
Well, first of all, I love my alchemists because the name of my business is Internet Alchemy.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's all about just basically creating magic in your connection with people and moving them. So Denise, I got caught up in the alchemy. What was the question?
Oh, just the people who get so like, they're so excited about all the possibilities and all the ideas, and they want to help a million different problems, and they just can't choose. And so they just get stuck in analysis paralysis.
Yeah. I can go there in a big way. I am definitely analytical, and I can go really deep on that. And the thing is you need to ship. If you're going to change your life, if you're going to create that business and have that, the income, the lifestyle, the freedom to work where and when you want, and the freedom to be able to do your best work and make an impact, you have to start somewhere. And whatever you start with is not going to be the final answer.
Yeah.
It's just, it's not, I started and I had a newsletter about the stock market. That seemed like it was, at one moment in time, I thought that was going to be my destiny, and we're nowhere near there. And my life is so much better now because that was my starter business. And many of us go through starter businesses or starter products or starter ideas, but you can't get to your true destiny, to the one that is going to change your life and your clients' lives, until you get the first one done. Just pick one.
Absolutely. Just pick one. I know it's so hard though, isn't it? I mean, my first ebook launch was 2003 or 4, and it was Internet Dating Tips for Men. And it was literally like, I was, a young woman living in London doing internet dating, going, wow, they're really bad at this. Let me fix it. Right. And like, obviously I'm still not doing that. And then I got married, and I lost weight using raw food. I did a raw food program for brides. And then I did like, a green and ethical wedding kind of thing. But that really taught me how to do a webinar, how to write a sales page. Like, none of that can be taken away from you for the next business and the next business and the next business. And I think that it is like just a picket. Just try one. And I think too, when you're starting out, like, there's not going to be that many people watching. So it's like, it doesn't matter if you change your mind later on anyway. Like, it's not.
Yeah, that's one of that's one of the gifts of starting out. I talked about, weirdly, I feel like that desperation I was in when I started, that was a gift. Well, another gift is if you are just starting from scratch, you've got a very small audience. So you can practice, you can fail, you can fall on your face, you can make mistakes. We have a member of our community, Anne LaFollette, and she teaches surface pattern design. And it's one of the most remarkable stories ever. She got laid, she was in her late 50s, and she got laid off from her corporate job. She had a very, very good corporate job, got laid off, got called into the office. I mean, literally exec level, got called into the office and instantly fired, let go. And she went home, she was depressed. Her husband said, you've got all those art supplies in the basement that you have been buying for years that you've never used. why don't you start doing some of that because it may play out of the depression. So she did. She came across this thing called surface pattern design and got really into it, and then decided maybe I could teach this to other people, that other women that look like me with gray hair, other women that are, and they're just like me. And so she decided to start doing it. What she did it as a live broadcast. She's just weekly would do a live broadcast. Literally the only person on her live broadcast was her cousin. She had a cousin show up, one person.
Yeah.
And then after a few of those, and she talks about getting used to talking to the green dot. And Anne's like, if you just close your eyes and you just imagine a little grandmother that you wish you had still, that's Anne. And then she started spending like $5 a day to try to, to drive a few people. And then she started to have 2 or 3 people on her live cast. And then 5, and then 10, and it gradually grew as she got better and got those chops, learned her messaging, got better at her messaging, got better at talking to the green dot, finally did a test launch that did $10,000. And she's like, okay, there's something here. And then not that much longer later, $100,000. And within probably, well, certainly 3 years, but maybe even 2 years, had gotten to $400,000 in her business. But it all started off talking to the green dot with just her cousin.
Yeah.
So,
actually, that makes me feel really emotional, Jeff, because like my nan was a really talented, creative woman. She could sew, she could paint, she could do all of these things. And I'll be honest, like ever since I could remember, she would say to me things like, I really hope your grandfather dies this year. And that sounds horrible, but when I think back, she was only like in her 50s when she was saying that to me, and it's because she literally had no financial options. And she was so talented, so talented, but she lived in a time where she couldn't do something like this. And so that has driven me so much, seeing that. And I've always wanted that financial independence. And that's why I started seeking out. And that's why I did my first ebook in 2004, and now like I'm not as driven to do that because I have the financial independence now, but I'm so passionate about other people seeing that possibility. Because you'd think now we live in this place where everyone knows that you can do that, but it's still such a sticking point that we don't take action. We feel scared. We've got that imposter syndrome. We've got that analysis paralysis. And so sharing that story just makes me feel so grateful for this time that we're in.
Yeah, it is an amazing time. I grew up in it. I grew up, I always had this calling that I wanted to have a business. Even when I was a kid, I had a lemonade stand. Like I said, I had no model. I had no one to imprint that, just no one I knew had a business, but I always had that feeling. But like when I grew up and read stories of people start having businesses, they were like, they had railroads and stuff like that. And that's like, I had no means. I didn't have the wherewithal to start a railroad or something like that. And then the internet comes along, and it's any one of us.
You could just do it on your phone, guys. You could just do it on your phone. I've got so anyone who's got a burning question you want to get on camera, can you just put your hand up? You can just go, I think, to the more, and you can just put your little hand up on your thing, and we'll go through people. Or if you don't want to come on camera, it's totally okay to put it in the chat, because I want to turn it over to you guys and ask your questions. But I do have one last question for you, Jeff, because I love hearing about launch disasters. And I was saying to you just before we got on that there was a bird in the house this morning. And I was just like, can we put a bird in the house just before we're about to go on this call, please? And I would love to hear some of your memorable disasters that either you have done yourself or you've heard in your community.
Yeah, I can't, so many, it's ridiculous. In fact, the other night on Sunday, we did a live broadcast, and that was actually when we opened up our cart and started taking orders. And I live in the mountains in Colorado, and I'm blessed to have, this is the secret headquarters. Mark's
your
been
launch
here.
house. Yeah.
And it's not my home. My home's very modest. I've been in the same home for 25 years. But this, I got a fancier place so we could bring clients. And we've got this amazing view out at the mountains. It's gorgeous. And the other night we're sitting there and on this broadcast, they're about 20 minutes in. And when I'm on camera, I can look right out the windows and I see the mountains and I see this storm coming across and it's coming across the valley. And I just know it's going to hit. And then the winds came in and the windows are shaking and the lightning's going. I'm like, oh no, we're going to lose power here. We're going to lose. And so we didn't, but have been live broadcasts where we've lost the internet, or we've lost power, where we've lost audio. All of that has happened. We had one where I live sort of out in the woods, big piece of property. And unfortunately, this is sad, but we had a homeless person who his brain wasn't quite there, and he thinks this is his property. And we're right at the end of the broadcast, right at the peak moment. He just shows up and he starts pounding on the door so hard that everyone could hear it through the microphones. And it was like, we're calling the police. It was just crazy.
Oh man.
That was sad. It was all, but it was just, we had in the US here, every 10 years, they take a census, where a census everyone fills out the census. And we're shooting a live stream. And again, right at the peak of live stream, we have a census taker come up and knock on the door. And it's like one of those doors with a window so they can see we're inside, but they're pounding on the door and we're like, we can't.
You're like, please.
Yeah.
I also remember one year you had your clothes cart on like election day, right?
That was a big disaster.
Yeah.
It was election.
It was the Hillary Trump.
It was the Trump Clinton. It was a very, we just, people just didn't show up during that, because we opened up cart right there during the election, and it was a crazy time here in the States, and people got scared, and we saw our traffic die off. But one of the things, we have this thing we call the launch parachute, which sounds, I don't know, might sound a little weird, but the idea is that because it's a sequence, the launch is a sequence. And that means that you can recover. So like I am supposed to say like a Super Bowl ad, I'm sure Super Bowl is a huge thing here in the States.
Yeah.
The ads are a huge thing.
I only watch the middle bit, the performance. I never watched the football bit.
Right. You watch the commercials. And some of the commercials are like memorable, and some of them are just really like, what were they thinking? But the thing is they spent millions and millions of dollars producing those, and then they spent millions and millions of dollars on the airtime, and then it plays for 30 seconds, and maybe it flops, or maybe it plays at a really inopportune time in the game. The game's like a good game, and then it's done. It's gone. But in a launch, you can recover from every one of those mistakes. It becomes part of the story, part of the narrative. Hey, you sent out an email. You wouldn't believe what happened. We just had the census taker come to the door, and it was so weird, and sorry about that. But if you missed that, here's the replay of it. And so you can build all of those things into your launch, and that's that parachute. So one piece, something can go wrong with one piece. You can forget to send out an email. You can get on Zoom and like your audio not work. But with the launch parachute and making it part of your narrative, you actually can get greater response.
And also having a community where you're not alone, you can share those things. The PLF community is so wonderful, and it encompasses so many different businesses as well. So you can kind of see and feel like, oh, I can do this as well. It's just when you sat at home by yourself and you just, have this little dream in your heart, and then you're like, oh, what a disaster. Okay, I'm just gonna quit, and that's the power of community. You guys know this in the Lucky Bee community too. All right, so Sandra, so I can't come on camera, but I want to know what I should focus on in the first 3 months. I have almost no audience and haven't made a sale yet. What do I focus on before launching so the launch will be successful?
Publishing. I consider myself a publisher. That's my job. Like, Denise, I'm sure you have this. You're out and about and you run into someone, they ask you what you do, and you're like, that's a complicated answer.
I say author.
Author. Okay. But then they say, okay, what do you write? What do you write? And then you're like, a book. And what's that? So I just say I'm a publisher. So it's not too far off. I'm a publisher. But that's the first thing I would do is I would start publishing. And the great thing is social makes it so much easier to just start publishing, to go on whatever platform you fits for your market and that you connect with, and you start talking about your topic. And try to get some reaction and start practicing your messaging and getting your voice down and getting your voice sharper and starting to attract an audience, even if it's one or two people like Anne La Follette. You just start to gather that. In those first 3 months, you can learn so much about your market and how to serve your market and what people care about within your market.
Yeah, it's just showing up, showing up, showing up, showing up. And I really think I don't feel like I've ever had any advanced strategies, except I'm like, I'm just going to show up all the time. And you never know what resonates with people. Sometimes you think, okay, I've made the commitment, I'm going to show up and, do the thing. That's going to be great. Oh no, that one was just half-assed. And that's the one that people like. It's really weird, but it's that consistency.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's quantity before quality. I mean, it's not like you want to put garbage out, but it's about getting the repetitions in. And if like when we're here and Denise is just like so polished and if it sounds like I know what I'm talking about, it's because I've got a lot of practice. And
Well, yeah. But you know what, Jeff, you might not know this. So we're renovating a house at the moment. So I'm actually in my garage. So I've set up like a fake office in my garage. I don't know if you guys can see.
Nice.
And so like I'm not polished either. It's like start with what you have. Like even if it's in your garage with marketplace shelves and books from the thrift store, that's all I still use.
So do you change your books out to match your outfit every time or?
No, well, blue, everything, my life's blue. So I just went and I literally go to the thrift store and I look for all the blue books.
Yeah.
But I'm in my garage, right?
I'm always in blue too. I mean, that's 100 every single time I'm blue. Yeah.
Well, I think too, I used to say my face is my fortune. And so I was like, I'm just going to show up until people just see my face all the time. And it doesn't have to be a face if that's not your product, but it's like, you just kind of want to be top of mind for people. And the thing is, Sandra, like your first launch might not be the biggest launch in the world, right? But it's like, it's that repetition of keep on going and doing the next one. Okay, so a question from Zoe. So Zoe, I've known since university days. I'm curious if PLF has also been successful for people who run in-person learning and development programs. We teach teachers and learning designers and facilitators how to design impactful learning experiences and design overall.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So one of the core principles with a launch is you need to have an end to the launch. There has to be a deadline for people to take action. And there's 3 main ways to have that deadline. And one is that at the end of the launch, the price goes up. Another one is the offer changes, bonuses go away. And the third one is that the offer is no longer available. And I actually stated those in the order of power. So the most powerful is that the offer goes away. And when you're doing these in person, these are events you're doing. So you don't have to work at creating that deadline. And when you have that kind of deadline, it will literally double your sales. And I've seen this over and over and over. I talked about that first launch I did that did $1,650. The second launch did $6,000. And the only difference was there was a deadline. So going in person, it's a perfect fit. Now, you might, after you start to fill those things up and you can't fit any more in because you're using PLF, at some point, you might want to go digital. And then you can reach a more global audience, because I'm sure people already travel for these, but they might not travel from around the world. And so going global, I used to do a big in-person event. In fact, Mark and Denise, you guys were both out at one. And we had 1,000 people from like 40 or 45 different countries. It was amazing. Then COVID hit and we moved that event online. And what happened? We went from 1,000 people to about 2,500 people. So you can absolutely use this for in-person events. And after you start to fill those up with product launch formula, you might decide to go virtual.
Well, I think with Zoe too, she is a trainer essentially, right? And so I think sometimes, people think, well, it's only entrepreneurs who are doing this, but actually a lot of people who do that in-person stuff, they want to learn how to do that themselves as well, to go online. And as you said, COVID really struggled with that, but PLF is wonderful for anyone who is teaching any kind of thing. you know, and I'm sure you've seen lots of different industries, from the entrepreneurial world to the corporate world to, you know, everything. So I think it was kind of a question about that, of like, are there people
Coaches,
who are doing trainer type stuff?
yep. Coaches, one-on-one practitioners. I bet you 40% of the people coming through our world are either a coach, or they do have some kind of one-on-one. Either they're a massage therapist, or they're a therapist, or they're helping people with their weight, or with their business, or with their golf swing. But they've built up a nice business one-on-one, but they're inherently can't leverage, because the only way to make more money is to work more hours, and obviously that runs out at some point. So that's a huge group of PLF owners, are people that went from one-on-one to small. This is the path that's been proven. One-on-one to a small group, like with a seed launch, and then from that small group to either an online course or a membership site. It's a golden path.
Yeah. Rebecca's asking, and I don't know if this might be a question for your team, is if there are Q&As and lives that align with a more Australian friendly time. So I don't know, because when people ask me that, I always think, I actually don't know what time the times are. So I don't know if it's something for your team.
Yeah.
Or something.
So what we do, our calls are typically at 4 Eastern, which is like 6 a.m. Australia part of the year. And I think then with the daylight savings, it changes things around. And I think it gets a little more reasonable for you guys, maybe 7, something like that. And frankly, I know at one point we started doing calls that were more UK and Europe friendly and more Australia friendly. And truthfully, I don't remember if we're doing those right now at this time. So
I'll get Mark to find out. He's the details man. You and I are like, we don't know.
My team.
Yeah, exactly. That's literally me in all the calls. I'm like, I don't know. So we'll get back to you on that, Rebecca. But honestly, I think too, the community is so great for things like that. You know, you can obviously watch all the replays, but the community is there all the time. And that's always a great resource as well. But I understand, being Australian myself, we kind of are a bit late sometime. Okay, so Ida, hi Ida. Can PLF work for children's media launch, fiction, podcast, workbook, picture book? Who have you got in that kind of that world too, of like author? Because I think sometimes people think that like the author world and the entrepreneurial world have to be so separate, and it's like, a marketing launch is marketing launch. It doesn't matter what you're
It
selling.
is. It is. We've got so many authors that have done so incredibly well. In fact, Reed Tracy, do you know Reed?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, he's my publisher from Hay House.
You're Hay House. So Reed Tracy is the CEO at Hay House and has been at Hay House forever. And I'm sure there's many people in your audience that are all about Hay House because of how amazing. Reed is deeply in our community. In fact, he was in my super high-end mastermind for 8 or 9 years. And part of what he does, he came in and he learned PLF, and he more or less requires all of his Hay House authors to go through PLF. And he really encourages them to create a course on the back end of their book, because, you know, books are very low margin. You don't make a lot of money from books. Specifically with children's book, I can't think of, actually, I can think of one person. I can't say his name. He's a big public figure who's just gone with a children's book, so I can't speak publicly to that. But the reality is, if your book is going to do well, then you have to sell it. Your publishers.
Yes. It's just the truth, right?
And even Hay House, which is the best, I think, the best at marketing, because they're so tied into the PLF world. Even there, you need to be the one marketing it. And the best way to do it is with a book launch, because what a book launch does is it's an initial sneeze that gets it out into the world. So the way to have a long-term bestseller is to write a great book and have people tell their friends and family about it. Word of mouth is what sells books.
Well, also, if you guys want some transparency around that, so my books make about $50,000 to $60,000 a year, you know, which is probably like in the top 1% of authors, right? Because so many people only, but I make millions from courses.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and so that's why I'm like, when people are like, "You're going to write another book?" And I'm like, maybe, but it's part of the overall strategy of you know, having other things for people to buy. So absolutely, you know, anyone who is an author here, like having a course, having something that you can sell on the back of it is going to be really, really important. Super important. And that's same with you, Rita, too. So so this is still an author question, but I think this is good. How can I repackage and relaunch my novel that already had a soft launch? I think this is a really good question too, because sometimes people feel like it's like, but everyone's seen that, whatever it is, whether it's a book or a course or whatever. What would you say to that? Of like, oh, but I've already launched it, you know?
Well, the key, and this isn't just for books, but this is for anyone with anything that's already on the market. The key was in the question is repackage. And so you just simply create something else that goes along with it. And that could be the missing chapter, which could just be a PDF. It could be a book club that you're going to do, buy the book now, and we're going to do readings for the next once a week for the next 4 weeks.
Yeah,
But
like
you
implementation, or yeah, if it's a nonfiction
study guide,
yeah,
the course that goes with it. And the course could be your pre-launch for the big course. So you have a book and you're like, maybe it's about, I don't know, what could it be about? It could be kite surfing. I just used that example today. The book's about kite surfing and you're like, buy the book now and you're going to get this free masterclass. And the masterclass is 3 videos or 3 live broadcasts. And that masterclass is your pre-launch. Yes, you're delivering value, but it's naturally leading into the full course, which is a $297 or $497 or $1,000 or whatever. So the whole idea is package, bundle. And that goes if it's a book, if you already have a widget, perfect for widgets, if you're trying to sell physical things, if you already have an offer, a membership site out there, just create a new package, which is just it could be one additional bonus.
Well, what I really like actually about PLF, every time I've logged in, you know, like there are lots of different strategies, you know, and so you do have a book launch like thing in the membership site. You know, you do have like a lot of like when I need to launch something, I'll go in there and go, okay, what's the system for that? And then we don't have to guess, we don't have to make it up, and we can just follow it. You know, and as I said, I don't watch the videos so much. I literally just get the transcripts and the questions and I go, okay, what needs to go in this bit? Okay, what needs to go in this bit? And so a lot of these questions too, it's like it is literally like it's not going to be perfect. You know, like Deborah, I love this question. What months of the year are best to launch? I would say the month that you do it is the best best one, right? Because I'm sure you've launched every month like I have too. Sometimes you don't know until you do it, but it's like we're waiting for perfection sometimes, you know?
Right. Yeah. And it's like, I didn't come up with this. I don't know where I heard this quote, but like, when's the best time to plant a tree? You know, if you want to have a tree in your front yard, 20 years ago, that's the best time to plant a tree. The absolute best, if you have a time machine. If you don't have a time machine, the second best time is today. And so, yeah, you know, I think right now I'm doing the launch masterclass, which is my launch for this year's cohort for Product Launch Formula. It's August. August is generally considered probably the single worst month for direct marketing, for selling something direct to consumers. And, you know, historical times say worst time ever. Well, I'm doing it now because it fits our schedule. There used to be a lot of seasonality, like in many markets. This is completely market dependent. Like if you're selling golf equipment or ski equipment, obviously it's different. Those are different markets. But, you know, generally it used to be January and February, great months, and then it falls off and then it comes back up. That's gone away with the internet.
It doesn't, it's so true. Like we used to always launch in January, and then we realized that that doesn't work with our family anymore because it ruins like our Christmas and summer, you know, break here. And so I probably launched in all different months now. The only thing that I sometimes do is I don't look at what's happening in my life around there. And sometimes I've been caught out and go, it's school holidays, we have no babysitter, or just something like that. And so it's literally, you just got to just pick a number, pick a date sometimes. Like
Denise,
yeah.
you know, like I said, the August, worst month ever, but you know what? I like one of my passions. I love to get out and have outdoor adventures. And we have this, I have a river trip planned, which a wilderness where we're going to go spend 8 days floating down a river in the wilderness. And I'm going with myself and my kids and their significant others. And that's happening next week. So I'm like, we're gonna launch. I don't want to go on that river trip and have to come back and instantly jump into a launch. And oh,
Yeah.
by the way, there's an election coming up here in the States. And so,
Yeah.
so it's like we're going on the river. I'm not going to change that. So we're doing a launch in August.
Just do it. Just literally pick a date. And it's the same, like Claire's asking, what platform do you recommend? Facebook, Instagram. It's literally what's easiest for you. You know, like I've always done it like that. Like we're not even on TikTok and YouTube at the moment, just because we just don't have the capacity to do it. And so we always do what's easiest, because it'll be that or nothing, you know. And it's the same, like trying to come up with a perfect date. It'll be imperfect, or it'll probably not happen, you know. And so sometimes you just got to get out of the analysis paralysis,
It's so
really.
easy to come up with reasons to like put it off. It's like, I don't
Oh,
have the perfect
definitely.
name for it. I don't have the perfect logo for it. It's like, no, make an offer and get feedback from the market, and then the next one's going to be better.
But surely if I can just get that perfect hex color, Jeff, it will make all the difference. No, I've fallen into that trap too. I call it procrastinating branding. It's just like, it has to be, I have to wait. And like during the pandemic, we couldn't work with our normal videographer. And so Mark was my videographer. And like 2 minutes in, the iPad lost battery. And I was just like, this is great, you know. And it took me back to those early days of having to do everything myself. And you know, you just have to kind of push through that resistance. But here's the thing, most people don't. Like, you might think the people who make it are the ones who are the smartest, or they've got some sort of magic button, and it is literally the one who just like got through the tech hurdle, got through the resistance, got through the video that they made where the audio like was on mute. It's literally just that. It's like a obstacle course of crap.
Yeah.
It's whoever just gets to the end.
Denise, one of my biggest learnings, I went to a Tony Robbins event, and I've actually, it's a crazy, but I've gotten to know Tony and actually coach him on his launches, which is a full circle thing, because
Yeah, wow.
when I was struggling as a stay-at-home dad, I bought his program off of an infomercial, and it changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
In any case, he invited me to come out to one of his events. We got to sit in the front row, and there was like almost 4,000 people there. And I brought my son, who was 19 years old at the time. And at one point, with Tony on stage, we played a game of Simon Says. I mean, you have that, everyone knows.
Yeah, I've been to his Unleash the Power Within.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
he does the Simon Says, and so within a few seconds, and he has everyone stand up, and then you sit down if you screw up. And I screwed up immediately. I just didn't care about it. It's like, whatever, Simon said that. I just don't care. So I'm seated down, and then he keeps on going, and more people get knocked out. But my son is still up, and we were actually sitting apart from each other, and I could see him across the way. And it gets down to, there's 100 people out of these 4,000, and then there's 50 people, and then he's in the final 10 people out of all these thousands, and I'm like the proud dad. And he didn't make it to the final, but he made it into the final 10. But what I remember is, like, after the game's over, and what Tony said is like, "Hey, I got a question for you. How many of you are playing that game to win it?" And I certainly was, and I didn't care. But my son, Dan, he raised his hand. He was in it to win it. And that's what got him down into the final 10 from 4,000. And the reality is, in anything, in this world, in this business, there's a lot of people that are not going to be in it to win it. And if you just say, I've decided, I have made the decision, I am in it, then I think you become unstoppable.
Exactly. Because it's just that persistence. It's not being the smartest. You don't have to be super extroverted or feel like you're super ambitious. But I just want to also mention too, like Jeff was saying about how he noticed that I've been doing ballet, right? And And I'm like, it's so funny. I really thought my life would be way fancier having made a lot of money. And it's almost like I've gone back to the things that brought me joy, like when I was younger, because I've kind of earned that freedom to do it, and like I go to ballet 6 days a week now. And I'm like, yesterday I was sitting there cross stitching for like 2 hours on my couch. Like I don't have to hustle as hard as I did in the early days. And it took me a while to realize that that's okay. I've kind of earned that. But I am really grateful to my earlier self for doing, that first launch with one person and then the next launch with five, knowing that, it's just from having that pure heart and imperfect action.
Yeah.
That's really that.
There's a really good question here from, I don't know how to pronounce this name, AOIFE.
Aoife, I think it's Irish. Yeah.
Okay. And this is a great question. It speaks to exactly to what you were talking about with the pure heart. Is what would you say to someone who's fallen into the pattern of just launching / sharing their offer without a big PLF launch because they feel deeply like their avatar needs it now? And I think, and maybe this is me patting myself on the back, but I think PLF is the most generous marketing strategy that there is, because it gives you the canvas to just deliver amazing value and truly help people without ever asking them to buy anything. And a small percentage are going to move forward with you. 2, 3, 4, 5%. 5% is crushing it. 2%, standard,
Yeah.
you're pretty good. Between 2
Yeah.
and 5% of people will move forward. So I feel great about this masterclass. I'm teaching my heart out. We have moved people forward with the masterclass for free. And the reality is, like, if I just took the entire PLF experience and I put it out there for free, very few people would go through the entire thing because they haven't bought in yet. I have to educate them on why they should really dive in and take this on as something that'll change their lives. And if I just put it out there for free, no one's going to be invested enough. And so I think that those people that decide to go forward with you, you will make a greater impact on the world by helping 95% of them for free and then going really deep with 5%.
Yeah. Yeah. And you never know who's going to buy the next launch and the next launch. And some people wait for years to buy from you, and that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I was going to ask, there's probably people on this call, right, who are thinking, I'm going to use the free stuff and then I'll join next year or I'll join the year after. And for some people, that's great. But for them, others, they, like you said, they need to plant the tree now. So what would you say to those guys?
I have so much sympathy for those folks, because I am there's a ready, fire, aim, and there's ready, aim, fire, and there's ready, fire, aim. And I think generally ready, fire, aim in this world, in this market, works best. I tend to be a ready, aim, 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 aim once more time, and then fire. And so that's not, so I get it, but that's how, I talked earlier about desperation, and desperation got me. If this is in your heart, if this is calling, like, I need to do this, I need to change my life, or I need to get this work in the world. I have this calling to help people.
It's that calling. I think that's what got me through the fear in the early days too. I really felt that calling deep in my heart, and I knew that I didn't want to have a job. I knew that I couldn't work, handle being in the corporate world. I just wanted to help people, and that's enough. And I think sometimes we overthink it. Even just saying, too, about like doing a big PLF style launch, like you can simplify anything. It's the framework. You make it what you want. You see people like Mark and I. It is complicated because we have a bigger business and we do ad spend and we do a lot of different things. You don't have to do all of that. You add in the pieces as you want to, using the frame, and then, just keep it simple, and then you can add on as you go. Mark, I'd like you to come back on if that's all right, because if you can just quickly let people know about what our PLF bonus is, because I have no idea of the details. I'll just turn up to the calls, but Can you just let everyone know and how that all works? And for the people who have already joined, when they get their bonuses, all of that kind of thing. Because Jeff and I are like, just join. We don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Denise has mentioned before, we're just such fans of Jeff and such endorsers of PLF, and because it's worked for us and we really have seen it work for so many people in our community. So we encourage you to do that and to join through us. And when you do that, we are able to give you a bonus of extra support. And we don't want to just give you more work to do. We don't want to just give you another course to complete. We want to try and help you get the most out of your investment in PLF with some extra coaching and information that we've learned from doing PLF. We've got some experience and we've tried PLF in a lot of different ways. So we want to share that knowledge to help you get the return on your investment and also fast track your PLF journey. So what you get when you join through us is you get a workshop with Denise and I where we share our experience and our mistakes and learnings from 10 years of launching. You'll get an insight into how we work as a couple and how our business works. So that's a big kind of masterclass. Then you get some extra training with me, which again is a kind of ask me anything type thing. It's addressing your tech questions or just sharing more of the different ways we've used PLF. You also get all of we've kind of got, it's almost like a mini course of launch training that we've been putting together over the last couple of years. So I've run training on how to use PLF and do a 5-day challenge, how to use the learnings from PLF to sell Evergreen, how to plan your launch and sharing like the templates and the spreadsheets that we use. You get all of our swipe files from some of our past launches. So that's like emails and Facebook ads and affiliate strategy and affiliate communication and the affiliate emails. So, and we don't give you like, this is like hundreds of pages of documents, and we don't give it you to overwhelm you, and we don't give it you to so that you can copy it, but it's so that you don't have to start with a blank page and you've got some inspiration. So it's like, okay, what did Denise do for her close cart email, or what does how do you set up an affiliate program, or what does it look like when you want to do a challenge or a different formats of PLF? So really, we just want to support you on your PLF journey by sharing what we've learned. And when you sign up this week, obviously the cart closes for PLF on Thursday. Then you'll get an email from us a couple of days after saying, yep, your purchase is confirmed. And here's some of your bonuses straight away. And then we'll give you a schedule of when those calls are going to be. Again, we don't want to overwhelm you straight away. The first thing we recommend is go through PLF with Jeff, because that's the best place to learn and get the foundation. And then as you work through PLF, we'll kind of drip feed out some of those bonuses over the next couple of months. But it really is all that we've learned around PLF, tried to distill and complement what you're going to get from Jeff to, like I said, give you the best chance of getting that return on your investment.
Yeah, thanks, babe. And the link for that is Denise.
It's Denise DT, yeah, /PLF.
PLF, yeah. Oh God, the 2 calls when we do together, Mark's the first couple of ones was like, let's sit in the same office and we can share a little head thing. And now I'm like, no, you be in your office, I'll be in my office, because otherwise I'll be looking at him going,
yeah, you just
really
kicking me and elbowing me under
you.
the table.
Like, don't say it like that. So yes, that they will be super fun. So DeniseDT.com/PLF. And I would say too, like the coolest thing that we've done as a couple, I think, is, do this stuff together. So if you are in a couple, I actually find it's really helpful if you have a partner who doesn't really understand this world, to be able to be like, here's the plan. When they're like, where's your business plan? You can be like, here's my plan. And it can be really fun doing it together. Also, if you've got friends who are in the group, you can set up those like, co-working kind of things and do it together. It's that accountability just to get stuff done. The other thing I'll share just really quickly too is what launching has allowed us to do. So we own 13 properties from the money we've made from our business. Like, we're building generational wealth. And for both of us who come from a single parent family, our business has allowed us to financially support our mums. They don't have to work. You know, those are the things that are really meaningful for us. It's not like, oh, we're going on a fabulous holiday or we've got a fancy car. We don't. I've got a Kia Carnival minivan that's covered in McDonald's crumbs. But it's like launching a course has allowed us to live in a city that we don't do business in. By the way, we don't do any business where we live, but it's allowed us to build this generational wealth. And it makes me really emotional to talk about it like that.
And what about
Yeah,
that trip you took your kids on? I mean, around the world, and
yeah,
I
absolutely.
was
Yeah.
just watching
It
you
was
guys
hell,
and-
Jeff. Have you ever taken, have you ever traveled around the world with 3 kids and your mum? It was, it was great. But yeah, the fact that we could do that and not have to ask a boss for permission, and, you know, it was,
Your kids are never gonna. Your kids will never. They'll change your life.
Jeff,
Yeah.
do you know what they remember about Disneyland? We saw a giant rat. My daughter literally mentioned that last night. She goes, do you remember when we were at Disneyland and we saw that giant rat? And I was like, yes. That's
But
what they remember.
I put a video up on our socials yesterday, because those things that you talk about, Denise, the generational wealth and the money, that people can totally get there. That's possible for people. It's not everybody who joins PLF, and it's certainly not common, and it's not easy, but it is possible. So you're buying into the opportunity of that possibility. But it's more the little things and what it means for our life. It's that I can take the kids to school and pick them up every day. It's that we can take them to tennis class or ballet lessons, or we can travel together, or
Take the dogs to the
yeah,
park. They appreciate it more.
go to the dog park every
At least
day.
the dogs are grateful.
I can be on the parent association or the volunteer teacher, or do all of those things. It's the freedom to create the life that you want on your terms. Work how you want to work, where you want to work. So we've probably got only a couple of minutes. I know Denise has got to get off to
I've
a
got to go off
ballet
to
class.
ballet. But thank you, Jeff. We don't want to take up any more of your time either. So any last final words for people before we close off?
Well, first of all, just thank you for having me on. It's so fun to be part of your community and watch the comment stream. And I'm so appreciative of you guys. And I so admire what you, just how you prioritize, how you've built something great and big, and it's impacted so many people, but you are so prioritize your family. I just super appreciate that. Love that about you. For everyone watching, I think I feel like I've said a lot of words today.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this is possible. What Mark and Denise have created, what I've created, what so many of our PLF owners have created, it's possible. You can have a business and you can have an online business and work from anywhere and create a great lifestyle, create a great income, create amazing freedom, and still do good and help people. And it's time
why not you?
Yeah, get your message
out.
you? Yeah, why not you? It's just
all right. Well, we'll leave that there. Thank you so much, Jeff, for your time. I so appreciate you, because I know you've just come off a big call as well today, and you probably run out of words by now, and I'm sure you've got a lot more to do before you get to go to bed tonight. So thank you so much. And guys, if you have any questions, either reach out to Jeff's team, or if there are questions about our bonuses particularly, just send me a DM on Instagram or email into our team as well, and we'll help you make that decision in the next couple of days. Because why not? You're not going to do it perfectly, so why not get started? Thanks, Mark, and thanks everybody. And if you want to just type in the comments to say thanks to Jeff, that would be amazing. Thank you. And we'll see you guys on the call, and I'll see you in a couple of days, Jeff, on that final call. Can't wait.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Claire. Thanks, Rita. Great to see you, Zoe. Thanks, Amanda. Thanks, Brenda. Bye. Bye, Mel. Bye, Amy. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Jeff. All right, I'm heading off to ballet. Bye, all. Bye.